Magandang umaga po sa lahat na Madam Rowena Quimado, Osman Zin, Ginoong Osman Zin, and Miss Madam Juliet Camaro. We're starting a few minutes late because I just moved back to my house having passed the few days of dust and grime dito sa bahay po na inaayos. So we're back and si Freud de Silva is also with us. There are a few interesting development. One is I received a YouTube video from an old colleague na kasama po natin pre-pandemic po, but now it's in Seattle. He's retired. He is Mario Oglefias. He used to be doing what Joshua has been doing for me, for us dito sa programa natin, but in my old operations when I was still with the refugee center from 2001 and on after the refugee center. Anyway, that's a long story, but pinadala niya ako ng interview ni Tucker Carlson sa isang individual, sa isang technical man who works with and probably is the leader of an internet group dedicated to exposing the internet manipulations ng US intelligence, no? And from that interview, naging malinaw yung mga operations na yan na naging very active ang Amerikano sa manipulation ng internet, Facebook, etc., Twitter, nung early 2000s, but it achieved one of its heights doon sa Arab revolutions noong mga 2011, 2012, the same time that the Arab Spring ang tawag po doon, when the Obama government wanted to change many of the Arab governments, including the government of Mubarak, of Gaddafi, and so on. And then it reached another height during the 2016 elections sa labanan ni Hillary Clinton at ni Donald Trump. And of course, another height later on dun sa COVID-19 operations naman ng Big Pharma with the US government lying to the whole world. No? Hanggang ngayon po, of course, yung COVID-19 issue hindi pa namamatay dahil lumalabas na po yung mga kasamaan ng Pfizer and ano ba yung ibang mga companies nun? Pfizer ang matingkad na aking naalala. At yung Moderna is the other one. Yes, Moderna. So we have been right all along because we were critical of all the information coming from the Western powers, particularly from the United States and from the Western sources of the internet platforms. But it's also important to stress that the COVID-19 virus was real. Totoo talaga. Kaya ang China po gumawa ng sariling vaccine kasi they knew that it was an operation of the American to try to create a pandemic, an epidemic in China and in Asia. Anyway, salamat naman na na-detect din natin yan. And of course, our movement, our group, our movement, including all of you who are our supporters, listeners, and subscribers, our, shall we say, yung magsha-share po ng ating mga diskusyon. We have been very successful in countering all this disinformation from the Western powers. Of course, the US. Gigi Gomez is with us. Good morning. Nakaabot din live. Thank you for rushing to join us live, watching from Davao. Real people ba? Or Neil Pepe, good morning. Comment tong sabi niya. Dads Kamayo, good morning sa lahat, sa inyong lahat. Noel Rivera, Enrico Abihar, Gigi Gomez, Atik Angelo, good morning. More power to our channel of knowledge. Antonio Carlos, good morning everyone. Well, we're second impromptu item I wanted to bring up is kahapon po, habang nagbo-broadcast po si Ado Paglinawan, something happened to his program. Biglang pinutol ng YouTube, no? Pinutol ng YouTube ang broadcast. Sabi ni Joshua and the other people on the internet, si Ado was a victim of mass, anong tawag mo, Joshua? Mass reporting. So it could have been an operation using a robot, no, or bot na tinatawag, na na-detect na ang subject matter ni Ado was Aaron Bushnell, yung Amerikano pong nagsunog ng sarili in an act of self-sacrifice to protest the genocide that his government and his armed forces. He is a serving Air Force officer, no? 25 years old, a very religious and true believer for justice, humanity, and nagsakripisyo po siya, and tinatalakay ni Ado nung biglang pinutol po ng YouTube. So we can see that we are being monitored because of the efficiency of AI in detecting things like that, and the efficiency of the automatic systems, nagagawa po nila yung monitoring. Kaya napakahalaga po ang tulong ng individual na tao at hindi po mga machines that they can control almost everything. So yan po ang nangyari kay Ado. Ado will be joining us in a while. Of course, we will wait for him. But we will start off with the first item I put in the agenda, which is the announcement of the first inaugural broadcast po ni Celso Cainglet, our colleague and fellow Association for Philippine-China Understanding awardee. His first broadcast of Bugtaw. Yung mga Ilonggo, maintindihan ang ibig sabihin ng bugtaw. I'm not sure what it means. He explained it to me. Gising, bugtaw. And this is a broadcast in Ilonggo from Iloilo. We're trying to organize our Visayas movement with some of our colleagues and comrades in Cebu. And in Iloilo, si June Lohero, who is a regular follower of our discussions here, and whom we just had a discussion with, a talk with over the phone, na ating tutulungan po rin na mag-broadcast at magsanib po sila Celso Cainglet with sila June Lohero and the Iloilo Press Group that we have been connected with the past at least 5 years. And Cebu, yung ating mga vloggers sa Cebu na sila E.B. Rugalot at si June Abines, who have been writing terrific articles and posting terrific posts sa kanilang Facebook. So we are growing. I thank also those who have been in touch with us in Telegram, because at least we're taking the first small steps to expand into the non-US controlled internet platforms, no? But we still have a lot to do to expand our platforms. So ayan po, we are continuing to progress. We are continuing to win. to be winning against the gigantic machinery of Western propaganda. We're greeting Nonalon Eugenio. Am I correct dito sa ano? Okay. Let me see. Medyo na ano ko itong Nonalon Eugenio and well, Jolito Arguelles on this other Facebook is with us already. OJ Hobson, Reynaldo Pasco Pajarito, and Rowena Paredes Barrios. Personally, laki ng pasasalamat ko sa China nang i-help nila si PRRD sa Marawi War at pagsusupply ng Sinovac ng mga panahon na pinagkakaitan ito tayo ng Western countries. Buhay po ang naisalba. Buhay po ang naisalba nila. Si Cory Barrios po yun. Ano? Nagtrabaho po ng halos sa 10 taon, if I'm not mistaken, sa China. And another 10 years, di ba, sa Hong Kong, I think. Ador Sarmiento, our colleague from PRPPC is with us right now. Giancarlo Iway, yung crusader sa COVID-19 po, nakasama natin. Stephen Esteban is with us. Brian Jerome Pineda. And sabi ni Floyd De Silva, pakishare na lang po ang talakayang ito para maliwanagan at malaman ang katotohanan sa mga issues sa loob at labas ng ating bansa. Salamat po. Okay. I don't know if Kadyoso can get the name of the interviewee ni Tucker Carlson. I wanted to appreciate his expose. He's an American who is exposing, yun po yung kay Tucker Carlson na show, no? You can take a look at it because I passed it around. Maybe Ka Joshua can post the link dyan po sa thread po natin. Napakahalaga na pakinggan po ninyo, no? How's it? Mike Denz. Anyway, Benz, parang Mercedes-Benz. Okay. Mike, M-I-K-E, Benz, B-E-N, Zebra, Z, ano? Napakaganda po ng mga expose po niya. And it confirms all our suspicions, all these 25 years past, because I stopped listening to the Western media around 1995. Talagang seriously stopped. I seriously stopped buying Time Magazine, stopped reading Fortune Magazine, Newsweek. Sandali may tawag ako kay Kit Tatad. Sandali. Hello, Kit. How are you? Or baka mistaken na-press lang ni Kit, no? Okay. Anyway, si Senator Kit Tatad po, matagal ko na pong kaugnay po sa maraming operations po natin o gawain na. Yan po ang interview. Sana mapanood po ninyo. The whole episode ni Tucker Carlson is 2.5 hours, pero itong interview, I think, is just around an hour or less, no? And na-expose talaga lahat po ng kagagawan po ng U.S. military, in particular, U.S. intelligence, the CIA, using the National Endowment for Democracy, and all the NGOs all over the world. Kaya po, importante po din na ating mabantayan, ma-expose din po itong mga ginagamit nila sa Pilipinas, yung mga Albert Del Rosario Institute, and the Stratbase, yung mga writers nila, Maria Risa, Jabad Haydarian, itong mga to. They are careerists, taking care of their own careers, basta't may pera, and kita po natin, they don't have any conscience, they do not feel as we do for the people of Gaza. They do not feel as I do, for example, for Gaddafi na magandang ginagawa para sa taong bayan niya na pinatay po ng karumal-dumal na mga Amerikano. They don't feel for any of humanity, but they are happy all the way to the bank, they think, but their collapse is coming. And ako'y talagang kailangan mag-express ng appreciation for people like you listening to us and sharing us our discussions. Dahil po ito ay trabaho na ginagawa po, ito ay mission na ginagawa po natin para sa sangkatauhan, sa humanity. Okay, so yan po, Ilonggos may tune in to YouTube channel ni Celso Kainglet. And I don't know if there are instructions that Ka Joshua can put. Yeah, okay. Okay, let's move on. Mga artikulo po sa ating blog ngayon sa ating Asian Century Philippines Journal. Unang-una yung artikulo po ni Daniel Long, Australia has no right to lecture BBM on human rights abuses. It's a very lengthy article exposing the hypocrisy of Australia. And si Kaado has a terrific and a very comprehensive article exposing po yung pagbibigay na po ata ni President BBM kay Tariela ng mga papel na ginagawa dapat ng Presidente as the President defaulted policy making to a Philippine Coast Guard interloper who obviously, of course, itong si Tariela is part of a large American operation targeting the minds of the Filipino people, the Filipino nation, and preparing it to be Ukraine 2.0. Ito po ay parang yung nangyari sa 2014 sa Ukraine and the years before that. Actually, yung operation ng mga Amerikano to create the war in Ukraine to the last Ukrainian started 2008-2009. Ganyan po katagal ang paghahanda po nila. And they spent $5 billion according to Victoria Nuland to create the coup in 2014 against the wishes of the Ukrainian people. Remember that. Nagawa po nila, kahit po karamihan po ng Ukrainian people ay hindi po sumasang-ayon. Kinokontrol lang nila yung mga essentials at gumagamit ng dahas. So dito po nakikita natin sa kasalukuyan sa ginagawa po ng Amerikano dito with sila dating General Galvez, sila General Anyo, sila Jonathan Malaya, sila Tariela, yung mga elemento po na talagang kontrolado po nila, sila Carpio et al. Yung mga nasa kabinete po ni Presidente BBM, si BBM mismo. Of course, ina-encourage natin si BBM na medyo marunong more fairly kasi nakikita natin yung puwang na nag-aalanganin na siya. Mapapansin din po natin, alam ng Amerikano, yung counter-pressure natin diyan kay BBM, alam din nila. Alam nila din at sinusubaybayan nila at sila yung nagre-respond din, yung mga Amerikano, doon sa ating mga napupuntusan. Yung mga points that we have made that has been weakening their position. For example, you will notice now the Inquirer coming out with arguments, si Babes Romualdez coming out with arguments against the fear of BBM of economic sanctions from China. We will be discussing that a little later. So nakikita po natin, no? Okay, anyway, may pumasok na notice from Microsoft. Ang galing ko muna. So we are, ang liit na ng efforts po natin with sila Sasrogando, sila, I can remember all the names of many of us helping each other to push the truth and push the facts. We are succeeding. They have to keep responding. And the next article naman po is from Ana Malinayana, A Troubled World and Asia Pacific Security. Ito po ay nakatutok doon sa rising danger po and risk for the Philippines, for our country. Kasi nga, yung makikita po ninyo in the latest speeches of Bongbong Marcos, which American writers are already writing for him. Ano no, yung iba diyan hindi po alam yung kung bakit ako'y kumbinsido na ang Amerikano na ang nagsusulat ng mga ilang mga speeches po. We cannot tell what proportions, but very crucial ones. For example, the speeches in Australia clearly were written by Americans. That is also what Kaado has noted. Ano? Kasi yung reference to World War II, etc., etc. Now, why do I know that the Americans are uh, directly, if not influencing, controlling the speech making of President BBM? Well, si Cory Aquino, sometime after the EDSA 1 revolution, maybe 1990, 1988, 89, went to Germany. Dala-dala niya, siyempre, yung press secretary niya na nagsusulat daw ng kanyang mga speeches, ano, si Teddy Boy Locsin. Ano? And anyway, nag-speech na naman si Cory doon sa European Parliament, I'm not sure. But I think, or was it German Parliament? And siyempre, papalakpakan po ng Western media and so on. Later on, ni-reveal, sinabi, and this is on record, that's why we can say it without any doubt, na sinabi ni Teddy Boy Locsin, nagsusunod nga siya nung kanyang speeches for Cory, pero may nagbabantay sa likod niya, talagang leading over his shoulder nung mga sinusulat niya. At kung ayaw po nung German CIA siguro, ano, huhugutin yung papel sa typewriter pa noon. Ano, at pinapaulit sa kanya kay Teddy Boy Locsin. Ganyan po, and Ado was the first one who noted it, and nabanggit po niya, mukhang Amerikano talagang sumusulat nito. Well, because the Americans are preparing the Filipinos to be Ukraine Part 2, 2.0. Ano? So yung mga gera-gera, mga tema na yan, ano, kung anong maihalongkat po nilang pwedeng ulat sa front page ng Inquirer, yan po ang ginagawa nila. Ngayon na naman po, dalawang Chinese ships daw loitering in the Benham Rice area. Well, the Chinese ships have been loitering for 1,200 years all over the South China Sea and the Pacific Ocean. Ano? But anyway, sa mga hindi po nakakaunawa, ay parang andyan na naman mga Chino, andyan naman sa Benham Rice natin, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, andyan na si Kado. Maybe he can tell us a bit more about what happened to his show yesterday. Kado, good morning.
Good morning. Naririnig niyo ba ako?
Malinaw na malinaw dito sa akin. No?
Kasi mahina ang dating ng audio pabalik sa akin sa speaker. Alam niyo mga kabansa, kailangang mag-ingat na talaga tayo at maging maingay dahil ito mga ignoramus na mga spokesman, they are rocking the boat dito sa Scarborough Shoal. Ang suspecha ko dito, dahil hindi nila magalaw ang Ayungin Shoal, this American-inspired traitors, ito mga totoong traidor, ay sinusubukan naman nila ngayon gawing forward operating base ang Scarborough Shoal. Dito ho, talagang magkakagulo na mga kabansa. At pag pinabayaan natin ang mga pangit na spokesman, no, na wala namang naiintindihan, pagka pinayagan natin yan, hindi tayo nag-ingay mga kabansa. Ligaw na ho ang bangag nating presidente, mga kabansa. Bangag na sa foreign policy. Dahil ang pinakikinggan, si Gibo Teodoro, si Eduardo Anyo, si Jay Tariela, si Jonathan Malaya, at iba pang mga mga bobo sa foreign policy, mga kabansa. At meron pa mga nakakasalimuha dyan na talagang tinitwist ang impormasyon. Katulad nung si Dindo Anghit, no? Sorry, Manghit pala. Sa Strat-based Albert de Rosario Institute. Yun humbak lang si Hoy Darian, si Richard Haydarian. At yung mukhang langka na si Jay Batumbakal, no? Ay talaga hong tinitwist ang impormasyon, pinabaluktot. Kasama na sa media, dyan si Karen Davila, kasama na yung Christian Isguera, at iba pang mga taong talagang mga tuta ng Amerikano. Hindi lang sila traidor sa bayan, tuta sila. Bakit mga kabansa? Dahil ang latest ngayon, tinatanggi na ni Tariela, I think it's also in our news later, and I will comment on that later, na pinayagan na tayo ng China na mangisda sa Scarborough Shoal. Alam niyo, pinakita ni Mentong itong, has the President defaulted policy making to a Philippine Coast Guard interloper? Dito pinakita ko mga kabansa na unang-una, wala tayong poder sa Scarborough Shoal. Bakit? Dahil yan po ay isinuko ni Benigno Simeon Aquino sa mga Chino. No? Hindi ho si Duterte. Wala hong teritoryo na wala sa atin sa ilalim ni Duterte. Pero noong panahon ni Noynoy Aquino, hindi na ako pupunta sa detalya dahil doon sa aking artikulo dyan sa Asian Century Journal, nagpahayag ako ng dalawang bersyon. Yung Filipino version na ginawa ng Bira Files at yung version ng China according to Ambassador anong ang pangalan ng ambassador na yun, Mentong?
Uying?
Huying.
Yeah.
So patas ho yan. May Philippine version, may Chinese version. At nagtutugma, mga kabansa. Hindi ho kinuha ng China sa atin by force. Kaklaruhin ko yan. No? Kasi may mga nagsasabi dyan that the Scarborough Shoal was grabbed, was seized by China from the Philippines. Hindi po ganyan ang nangyayari.
Okay, Kado, we have an item dyan.
Isinuko.
Kado, meron tayong item dyan sa agenda. I-wrap up mo lang in one sentence and we will discuss it extensively.
Isinuko po natin yan, Kamento.
Okay.
Oh.
So, still on the series of articles sa ating grupo, si Karod Kapunan has a good, very, very good article sa Manila Standard last Saturday ata, no? Or last Monday lumabas. Kasi minsan nalilipat-lipat yung kanyang schedule. But basically, ang title po ni Karod is saying that falter, ano ba sa Tagalog yan? Pumapalpak na ang transparency strategy nila Raymond Powell. Bumabaksak na po ang operation nabuko na. Kaya mapapansin po ninyo, nagkakagilap na, clutching at straws na sa mga propaganda nila. Biglang papasok tungkol sa Second World War, si Babes Romualdez, papasok tungkol sa 1.7 trillion peso US investments daw na papasok para tapatan yung kaba. Kababa is the best word for it. Takot ni DFA Secretary Enrique Manalo na baka dumating na ang economic sanctions ng China. So, ayun, nandiyan na pala. Transparency strategy unraveling. Pinapaliwanag ni Rod yan po yung nawawala na yung impact ng kanilang operation sa Ayungin. Ngayon, gumagawa naman silang sari-saring mga operation dyan sa Scarborough Shoal, yung pinapaliwanag ni Kado. So we'll move on from that, no? please try to visit the article of Rod Kapunan. Will be publishing it also in our Asian Century Journal matapos makaraan ng ilang araw kasi nga siyempre we have to respect the right of Manila Standard to show this first in their paper. Now I will go to one of the two operators po ng Amerikano sa media, itong si Jarius Mondok. Aking sinama po ito dahil importante naman yung ilang mga sinusulat niya dahil po siya ay nag-ooperate with some of the military people kasi nga nasa establishmento siya. Andyan na po yung kanyang article ng March 1, 2 days ago lang po ito. Na kanyang title po ay Enact Anti-Dynasty No. Now ex-AFP PNP Chiefs Urge. Kasi yan ang gusto kong bigyan ng diin na itong mga retired military po and PNP ay nagka-clamor kasi nakikita nila yung sobrang inbreeding na ng politika po natin, at inbreeding at sobrang pagpapasasa po ng ilang pamilya na sa politika natin. Of course, that's in coordination with sila Ramon Ang, with sila Manny Pangilinan, the oligarchs, sila Rason, dahil they protect each other. But anyway, sabi po din ni Jarius Mondok dito, 50% of Filipinos rate themselves poor and another 30% near poor. That's 80% of the population, which is correct. This is according to SWS, so this is not unique to Jarius yung information. No? Studies pinpoint the most penurious to be where dynasties rule, and so on. So, but I also, makikita po ninyo o nating lahat yung kabilang kara sa doble karang taong ito ng Amerikano. Dito naman sa kanyang column sa Filipino Star ngayon na Tagalog, siya ay tinatalakay niya 4 na uri na collaborator kung magkagera sa China. Hinihahambing niya yung mga nagpanig po sa Hapon noong Second World War. Sabi po rito, naroon na ang collaborator sa politika, isa si Benigno S. Aquino, leader ng kapisanan ng paglilingkod sa bagong Pilipinas, Kalibapi. Naroon na rin collaborator sa ekonomiya, isa si Mariano Marcos. Nagbenta sila ng scrap iron para gamiting pandigma laban sa Hapon, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, he talks about yung yung collaborator daw ngayon with China and so on. Of course, yung hindi niya po sinasama po dyan na totoong collaborator ay yung mga collaborator sa Amerikano tulad niya. Now, of course, kung babalikan po natin sa Second World War, ang China po kakampi ng mga lumalaban sa Hapon tulad ng Hukbalhap, yung Wachi detachment, na mga Chino na sumama po sa mga operations ng Hukbalhap, at nag-share ng guerrilla tactics and strategies, nag-share ng guerrilla knowledge. And China has always been on the side of the Filipino people sa digmaan laban sa mga Espanyol. Yan nandyan din po yung tulong ni Sun Yat-sen sa pag-aarmas sa Katipunan through Mariano Ponce. Siyempre, yan po ay hindi babanggitin nitong Jarius Mondok. But just a note of clarification about the Second World War. Napilitan po ang mga Pilipino na maghati sa Amerikano at sa Hapon. Kasi nga may dahilan din yung mga pumanig sa Hapon dahil they were anti-imperialist. Ang slogan ng Hapon ay Asia for the Asians din. The Asia Greater, East Asia Greater, East Asia Greater East Asia Cooperative something. I won't try to remember the exact name. Greater East Asia Co-Prosperity Sphere. Yon, okay. Sa pagmamadali po ng aking pananalita na bubulol tayo ng kaunti. No? But anyway, yan po, mga kolumnista ng bayan natin. Now, I'm going on to the political issues po. Baduy guilty of indirect contempt for threats versus the judges now, versus a judge. But actually po, yung desisyon po dito ay si yung dilawan na justice po ng Supreme Court, no? Si what's his name? Joshua, can you check? Si but anyway,
Yun
Leonen, remember. Okay, and yeah. I'll go back also to our discussion last time tungkol sa presyo ng bigas, ano? Kasi importanteng ma-clarify po natin kasi nagkamali ako doon sa pag-present ng isang chart, yung per capita GDP ang na-present ko at hindi po per capita income. Kaya po that explains yung medyo mataas ang presyo ng Indonesia at Thailand compared to the Philippines, but that is relative to the income. And so yung presyo nandiyan po sa screen po ninyo, GDP nominal per capita income, but I wanted to show the per capita income in US dollars. So ang Indonesia po, ang per capita income is 16,843 US dollars per annum. Thailand is 23,912 per capita income. In PPP, no? In PP, power purchase parity. Ang Singapore, hindi na natin babanggitin dahil sobrang mataas po. While ang Philippines po is only half of Thailand, is 30% lower than Indonesia at 12,433. This is from the ASEAN Google search. So again, yung prices last week that we discussed or last show, Vietnam is only half in terms of US dollar prices sa Pilipinas, sa pinakamurang bigas. Thailand is a little higher, but as you can see, their income is much higher than the Philippines. Ganyan din po sa Malaysia, less than half ng Pilipinas po yung presyo ng bigas sa pinaka lower quality, and sa Pilipinas po 45 US cents yung pinakababa na quality. Okay, that is just to clarify yung last report po natin from the last show natin. And sa economy po, now we can show the real sentiment of the people. Kasi po, again, this is the SWS survey. Optimism on economy lowest since the pandemic. Kasi araw-araw may makikita po tayo mga positibong mga ulat ditong diaryo, yung mga ibang mga diaryo, but this is a survey. Alam naman natin ang SWS killing sa gobyerno lagi, lalo na pro-American na itong gobyerno ni BBM. But they still cannot deny the mood of the people is one of pessimism about their economic future under the present government and economic philosophy. Meanwhile, while si Babes Romualdez ay naglabas po ng anunsyo para maengganyo ang populasyon sa Pilipinas na kumampi po sa Amerika sa harap ng mga panganib po, that's the word I was looking for earlier, nila Department of Foreign Affairs Secretary Enrique Manalo na baka mag-economic sanctions on China. The fact is the US is in trouble. Ito po ang importanteng maunawaan po nating lahat. The US national debt is rising by $1 trillion about every 100 days. Tatlong buwan, kada tatlong buwan, $1 trillion ang nadadagdag sa $34 trillion na po yung huling ulat itong Pebrerong ito. $34 trillion in 3 months' time. That's March, April, May. $35 trillion na yan. In August, that will be $36 trillion, and so on and so forth, and continue to balloon. The nation's debt now stands at nearly $34 trillion as of Wednesday. That is just a few days ago. Since June, the last two 1 trillion jumps occurred in about 100 days. Yan. Okay, now ito ay aking gustong bigyan ng pansin po kasi makikita po natin ang kabobohan ng mga napapasok po sa ating Kongreso, gumagawa ng batas ng bayan, gumagawa ng mga investigasyon na walang kaalam-alam ng mga tao, marunong po lang siguro magsuhol po sa COMELEC. Ito ay party list representative ng anak kalusugan na kung anong mga walang katuturan na sinasabi tungkol sa pagpapataas daw ng revenues ng gobyerno. Sabi nitong si party list anak kalusugan, party list Ray Reyes, lowering taxes on stock deals can bring in 4.3 trillion for Philippine growth. Unang-una, ang stock market operations is not the real economy. Sugal lang po yan. That is a casino. Taas pa ba lang ang presyo niyan? Hot money. Yes. So according to
anytime
the law,
papasok, anytime pwedeng lumabas.
lumabas. According to the lawmaker, the reduction in friction cost, may mga friction cost pa, would boost the country's investor appeal na naman. Investor appeal. Hindi niya narinig po ang sinabi ni Amy nasa committee sa Senado na concerned with all this foreign investment. Ni minsan hindi po nababanggit po ng mga foreign investor itong mga issues na to. Ang binanggit ni Amy kuryente ang isa sa mga problema po ng mga investors. But anyway, yan ang klase po ng ating political system, Kaado. Kaya po, sometimes I don't really take elections seriously. I want a revolution. That is why our program today is entitled Unfinished Revolution. Dapat revolution po, batay po sa mga prinsipyo ng, well, I think we can use the term socialism or democratic socialism na itong mga malalaking, mamaya meron tayong item on the non-revenue income of the government and what are these, Okay, anyway, just briefly, formally, para mauulat natin that we're monitoring, we're conscious, itong mga kapakanan po ng... Yes, Kaado, go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Alam po ninyo, parang pag-arbo nila rin sa mga foreign investor. Gusto ko lang i-report sa inyo na may balita ngayon na ang isang 97-year-old Philippine company ay nagsara na. Halos isang centennial, 100 years, nagsara. Sugar refiner Central Azucarera Don Pedro Inasugbu, Batangas terminates all its employees, saying increased sugar importation, and I would say smuggling by government and government-sponsored hoarders and traders in the past years have hurt its operations. Thousands of sugarcane planters and field workers are affected. Ayan mga kabansa, no? Hindi na salba. Closure of operations. Ultimong oligarko na itong si Manuel Pangilinan ay hindi na ho nakaya. No? At yung mga may-ari ay napilitan ng magsara. Kung ang mga industriya na katulad nito ay nagsasara sa loob ng Pilipinas, paano pa kaya yung mga foreign investments na yan? Alam niyo mga kabansa, let us be discerning. Maraming propagandang lumalabas sa mainstream media. Pero hindi nila maitatago na itong Central Azucarera Don Pedro Inasugbu, Batangas ay nagsara na. Libo-libo, mga kabansa. Farmers farm workers, factory workers ang mawawala ng trabaho dito. Dahil ang agricultural economy po ni Bongbong Marcos ay importation-oriented. Wala siyang pakialam kung magsarama ng mga kumpanyang ganito. Wala siyang pakialam kung maghirap ang mga magsasaka at mga farm workers na katulad nito. Ito po, this is a very clear example. Ano bang nangyayari sa ating ekonomiya? Miski ho, baguhin nila ang saligang batas. Mataas pa ho ang kuryente. Ako'y naaawa dito sa mag-asawang kaibigan ko, si Nick Elman. Dalawa lamang silang senior citizen, mga kabansa, sa kanilang bahay. Pero ang binabayad nilang kuryente ay 1,800 a month. Wala naman silang trabaho. Wala naman silang ginagamit na air conditioner, electric fan, at saka refrigerator lamang at ilaw. 1,800 a month. Yun hong kuryente ko, nagsimula sa 3,500 nung bandang October, naging 4,500 nung November, naging 5,000 nung December, naging 5,500 nitong January at nitong February, 6,000 na po. Wala namang pagbabago, bumababa pa ang kilowatt hours. Aling industriya, anong kumpanya ang magtatagal at hindi magsasara? Pangalawa, ang korupsyon ay walang pigil. Ultimo, mga tataas ng mga tao sa ating gobyerno, sila pa at ang kanilang mga asawa at kamag-anak na pagbibintangan pa na sila ang nag-smuggle, sila ang nagnanakaw sa kaban ng bayan. Pangatlo, ang ating infrastruktura. Recently, Sus Mariosep, mga kabansa, nagkagulo dun sa Terminal 3, nagkagulo sa EDSA, hindi maintindihan kung ano nangyayari sa traffic. At para maibsan ang reklamo sa traffic, pinagbabawal na yung mga e-bike. Kung saan pupunta yung solusyon imbis sa mga ugat ng mga problema.
Okay,
Amen.
we'll get back to all this. Kaya nga sinama ko ng e-tracks dito kasi alam ko libo-libong mga mamamayang Pilipino ay umaasa lang po dito sa e-tracks. Affordable po. Hindi na po nagagasolina, konting kuryente lang po, nakakalakad-lakad sila sa mga essential trips po nila. So, there are no solutions under the present system. Well, we'll dwell on this further kasi marami pa po tayong items. I think we have almost 30 items. Well, nabanggit mo yung airport yung surot problema sa sa airport natin. Yun naman na naging latest. Matapos nitong surot, daga naman po. Well, sinasadya po public utilities ng oligarkyo gamit po ang pabayang gobyerno. They like the government to be inefficient, corrupt, incompetent, like the government of Bongbong Marcos, unlike the government of Marcos Sr., kompetente, eficiente, dedicated, but they replaced it with Cory Aquino, Ramos, Erap, and so on and so forth, Gloria Arroyo. Sobrang corrupt, sobrang incompetent, sobrang collaborator ng mga oligarchs. So this is deliberate po. Sadya po yan. And gives people the impression that mag-privatize na tayo. Kahit mahal, hindi nila alam na eventually suicidal po yung privatization. Well, that's what we can... bumabati po ako kay Lina Panganiban dito sa isang Facebook natin, Adrian Abuyuan, and we'll go back to the others later on. Now let's go to the trip of Bongbong Marcos to Australia, South China Sea. Marcos says Philippines will not cede 1 square inch of territory. Unang-una, natataranta ata si Bongbong Marcos kung anong territory. Yung EEZ po is not territory, and that is really what the Philippines formally as a government is pursuing. The EEZ na nanggaling po sa arbitration panel award na tinatawag. Ano? So that is not territory. When he talks about territory, if he strictly understands territory, that's the 12-mile limit po. Kaado always explains, no? And so, next one po, yung kanyang sinabi po, again, this is reported by Benar News, the US-funded news, Malaysian news, no? Philippines will not yield 1 square inch of maritime territory, Marcos says. And of course, ang signifikante po sa mga sinabi po at ngayon binabandera po ng Inquirer at ibang mga pahayagan including international media sa Western media, no? Philippines again on the front line like World War II, says Marcos. Bakit po niya pinapasok po yan? Kundi trying to create a war mentality among Filipinos na itutulak to become Ukraine 2.0. That we discussed that earlier, Kado, while you were still not with us. And yung nga sabi mo nga sa akin na mukhang Amerikano na nagsusulat ng speeches nitong si Bongbong Marcos. Kado, go ahead.
Oo, kasi ang frame of mind nung nagsulat ay hindi Filipino frame of mind, kundi Amerikano occupying the Philippines. The writer of the Marcos speech was identifying his own character as an American occupying the Philippines. Dahil hindi naman pupunta ho ang Japan dito with such might and punishment kung wala mga Amerikano dito eh. Katulad ng nangyari sa Malaya, for instance, sa Singapore and all that. Hindi naman masyado nagkaroon ng bakbakan doon eh. Ng patayan, ng bombahan eh. Basta, kumbaga parang nagmarcha na lang si Yamashita papasok doon eh. Pero ang pinadala ho rito si Masauro Homa at iba. The way the rest of Southeast Asia was taken over was different from the takeover of the Philippines by Masauro Homa. At yan makikita mga kabansa kung gaano kaduwag ang mga Amerikano. 45,000 lamang ang puwersa ni Masauro Homa na naglanding sa Dagupan, sa Lingayen, Pangasinan Beach. Samantalang ang puwersa ho ng US USAFE, United States Armed Forces in the Pacific.
In the Far East. In the Far
East was more than 120,000. Sumuko tayo sa puwersa na 1/3 lamang. Bakit? Dahil po sa kapalpakan ng desisyon ni Douglas MacArthur at ito, Mentong, I hope, palagi ko wala na ito mangyayari in my lifetime, but I hope after my lifetime, somebody writes kung sino talaga ito si Douglas MacArthur. Tama na siya eh. Defense of the beaches. Sinuwag na niya ang Washington DC do sa Plan Orange. What was the Plan Orange? The defense of Bataanan Corridor kasi ina-anticipate ng Washington DC na papasok ang mga Hapon dyan sa Manila Bay.
Anyway, Kaado, balikan mo lang yung American occupier mentality ang nagsulat nitong mga speeches ni Marcos na yun. If you can repeat that.
Yun lang eh. So ang condition reflects na nagsulat ng speech is not a Filipino frame of mind. Because it is from an American viewpoint, which during that time was correct. dahil sila talaga ang may soberanya over the Philippines at that time. We were still a Commonwealth. So ayan mga kabansa, mga katuturan. Ngayon,
Okay.
yung reference ni Marcos back to 1942, kaduda-duda mga kabansa. Dahil ang frame of mind niya is a frame of mind of an American being attacked by the Japanese. Eh anong pakialam natin doon as a people? Kung nandito ba, kung wala ba dito ang mga Amerikano, mangyayari ba yon in that intensity and violence? Where
Yes,
1
Kado.
million of our people died?
Yeah. Kado is now 8:59. I'd just like to remind Ka Joshua to prepare the raffle and post po yung mga naisumali po sa ating raffle ng libro ni Ka and ex-General Victor Corpus, DMAC points, we'll raffle it off at 7:45. 7:45, okay. No, tama ba? No, 8, it's now 9 a.m. At 9:45, sorry, 9:45. 9:45 natin i-raffle off. So sali na po kayo, lalo-lalo na yung mga bagong pangalan po nakikita natin po, no? Of course, we're greeting Antonio Carlos, Fernando Rosales, Calvin Chieng, BJ Waken, Vivian, Roland Datuin is with us, Jacqueline Trajano, Nelson Heraldez, Miguel Montero, hello, Kamentong Kaado, at also have a pleasant Sunday morning sa inyong lahat. Mabuhay pong kayong lahat diyan. And then Atik Angelo, Fernando Rosales, Atik Angelo, Radio Ilonggo is watching now. Let me just scroll down kung meron pa po dito sa baba. Meron pa but I cannot seem to scroll down at the moment. Well, anyway, so Kaado, let's move on. Sabi ko nga sa aking column na hindi pa po napapublish, baka bukas po o Martes diyan sa Pinoy Expose ni Paul Gutierrez, my second column since he invited me back to write, ay ang pamagat ko ay something like BBM off key. Bakit off key? Disintonado sa Australia. Kasi po Australia, ito po ang importanteng headline po tungkol sa Australia. November 5, 2023 pa po ito. Australia's new Prime Minister elected in 2020, early 2023, if I'm not mistaken. Ito, Australia's Albanese, the new Prime Minister, seeks dialogue, cooperation in China visit. Yan po ang direksyon na po ng Australia makaraan po nung dating administrasyon ni Scott Morrison, na tinulak po ng mga Amerikano na maging anti-China at puro kasinungalingan tungkol sa COVID-19, na Wuhan daw nagsimula, which of course Kaado has written a book to dispute and debunk. And Albanese has been systematically, slowly re-establishing cooperation and confidence building with China. Started last November 2023 sa kanyang state visit sa China. And may resulta na po ngayon sa Pebrero, Marso ng 2024, just a few months after, binubuksan na ulit ng China ang merkado. Ito po from the Global Times Chinese newspaper says, November 2022, in 2023 pa, naglabas na po itong report ng Global Times. Australian lobsters and wine to China likely to resume as relations warm up, according to the Australian industry and lobster and wine industry. Hindi po lang yan, mga minerals, mga iron, mga maraming bilyong halaga ng mga exports po ay dahan-dahang ibabalik na po. Australia learned its lesson not to serve American interest and American impositions, hook, line, and sinker. Dahil po talagang nasaktan ang Australian economy, Australian industries, Australian wine producers. Let me see if I had, I had, of course, reviewed so many materials about this. yung kanilang yung wine surplus po nila dahil po doon sa ilang taong sanctions ng China sa wine to respond to the lies of the Morrison government before. Yung surplus po ng kanilang wine stock will last for years and years and years. Bilyon-bilyong mga botelya po. Well, anyway, that is to show that the Philippines will be making a mistake if it continues with this homage to America and its preparation for war. Australia's oversupply of wine tops 2.8 billion bottles in the wake of China trade dispute. Ang ginawa lang po ng China ay dinagdag ng taripa po. Hindi naman binan, dinagdag ng taripa. Siyempre, ang Chinese market po naghanap na po sa iba't ibang parte ng mundo ng kapalit na wine. Ganyan po kasimple ang pagpapatakbo ng ekonomiya. Well, natalo po ang gobyerno po ni Morrison at Albanese took over. So now we move on to another major issue, Kaado. Your favorite pet peeve, si Tariela. Sabi po ni Tariela noong March 1, China lying about the permit, meaning yung permiso po ng China na mangisda po ang mga Filipino fishermen sa Scarborough Shoal but not inside the lagoon, yung pangitlugan po ng isda doon sa Scarborough Shoal, which we have been saying has been the case all along. There has been no harassment po there. But what is the significance of this discussion about this permit? Kasi kung may usapan ng Pilipinas at China dyan po, may implied recognition po of China's sovereignty over the Scarborough Shoal, which let's examine. Was there or was there not an agreement? Well, ito yung report po ng Philippine Star noong July 1st, 2019. Itong salita po quoted by Philippine Star of Duterte's words. Quote, "Will you allow the Chinese to fish? Question mark. Of course. That's what we talked about before. That's why we talked. And that was why we were allowed to fish again. It was a mutual agreement." Duterte said at a speech in Malacanang last week. Presidential spokesman Salvador Panelo, meanwhile, revealed that the two leaders did not formally sign documents on the supposed fishing deal in Philippine waters. I quote, "I don't think they signed an agreement. They just talk, world leaders, they have a word of honor," unquote. So, may word of honor dapat. Yan ang sinasabi. These are exact quotes. So it is not a lie that there was no agreement, hindi lang formal agreement. But even from this report, you can see the dilemma that a Philippine president would have in negotiating for the interest of our fishermen. Anong dilemma niyan? Yung dilemma ng arbitration award na ginawa ng Amerikano para itali po ang soberenya ng Pilipinas na magdesisyon para sa kabutihan ng kanyang mga constituencies like the Filipino fishermen. Okay. So, malinaw po may usapan. Hindi po pirmado kasi nga alam din ng Pilipinas noon merong mga dilemma. At yun naman ang ginamit po na nila Carpio mamaya. We'll just go on with the statement po, no? So sabi this is the report naman ng South China Morning Post. I am posting this because it was also internationally published. So the word of honor carries through not only sa loob ng populasyon ng China at ng Pilipinas, kundi sa buong mundo. Xi tells Duterte that Scarborough Shoal will stay open to Philippine fishermen. So again, that establishes that there was a discussion and an agreement. But in 2021, lumabas na po yung dilemma ng Pilipinas because of the arbitration award. Nagagamit po ng mga American boys po yan laban sa interest ng Pilipinas to deal with different governments, including China, to solve problems in behalf of our people. In this case, the thousands and thousands of Filipino fishermen who are affected by the fishing in the South China Sea, and in particular Scarborough Shoal. So si Harry Roque said in 2021, Malacanang vehemently denied Friday that President Rodrigo Duterte has an existing verbal fishing agreement with Chinese President Xi Jinping now. So very clear po, bumabaliktad po si Harry Roque, but President Duterte has never denied what he said before. No? So we must understand this distinction. And Harry Roque said this after retired Supreme Court Justice Antonio Carpio said the supposed verbal deal between Duterte and Xi has emboldened Chinese vessels to stay in the disputed West Philippine Sea. Una-una, the Chinese vessels have been roaming the South China Sea, which is called, even the parts called West Philippine Sea, illegally by the Philippines or unrecognized by the international community. So that's not an issue, but ginawa ni Carpio na issue, siyempre, American boy siya. Ano? And of course, ang basehan po niya sa paggagawa ng reklamong yun ay yung arbitration award. Anyway, yun ang Kaado. That's why I really wanted you to come in here because your articles have been focused on this. Go ahead, Kaado.
Una-una, babalik ako rin sa October 2016. Headline, CNN, by Cathy Hunt and Cathy Kiano. China allows Philippine fishermen access to disputed shoal in South China Sea. By Emily Rahuhala, Washington Post, October 2016. China stopped chasing fishermen from contested shoal. The New York Times, by Richard Paddock, October 2016. Chinese vessels leave disputed fishing grounds in South China Sea. By Ankit Panda, The Diplomat, the Philippine fishermen gain access to Scarborough after Duterte's China trip. Ngayon, fast forward sa 2018, ito ho ang statement ng ating Department of Foreign Affairs Secretary Alan Peter Cayetano noong panahon na yon. Philippines aiming for permanent fishing agreement in Scarborough Shoal. Ayan mga kabansa. Following a 2012 standoff between the Chinese and Philippine vessels in Scarborough Shoal, fishermen were only able to operate back in the area last 2016 after President Rodrigo Duterte engaged Beijing in talks. Directly po yan kay Xi Jinping. With this, sabi ni Cayetano, the current tentative agreement, punyeta ka, Tariola, ano ba pangalan mo talaga? Nagsisinungaling ka eh. O, either nagsisinungaling ka o talagang bobo ka. Ito sabi ni Cayetano, the current tentative agreement in place becomes essential until claimants who refuse to yield from their position find a common ground for a permanent accord. So yan mga kabansa ang mga nakakatakot dito sa mga nanunungkulan ngayon sa gobyerno. At kung sino-sino mga maingay na nagsasalita na wala namang kaalam-alam sa international law. Ako hindi abogado, pero 7 taon ho ako nagsilbi sa Foreign Service sa Washington, D.C. Enough to gain a de facto PhD. Kaya alam ko ho, the first lesson in international law for dummies, mga kabansa, is that hindi lahat ng international law ay nakasulat. In fact, ang nakasulat na international law is only a small part of international law. May tinatawag pong customary law, unwritten legal rule which derives from general, uniform, and constant patterns of behavior established in the long run and considered in the same way as a binding law. Ano ho ibig sabihin dito mga kabansa? Wala nakasulat, pero number one, kung may understanding, number two, kung may sitwasyon de facto that has been going on for so many years at walang nagre-reklamo, number three, kung may traditional pattern na inoobserbahan ng mga coastal countries or claimant countries, nagkakaroon po ng doctrine of effective control. Ano ho yung doctrine of effective control? An international display of power and authority over an area by the exercise of jurisdiction and state function
No, I'll just go to the CR for a minute. Go ahead.
on a continuous and peaceful basis. Si Marcos ba ay napaglalalangan na ng mga ulol na mga abogado at mga utak pulbura na nag-i-improvise na ng mga sarili nilang definition para sa kanilang mga vested interest? Ako po ay natatakot dito dahil mukhang free for all na nangyayari. Basta may tsapa ka, basta may estrella ka sa iyong balikat, basta may appointment ka na secretary ka o undersecretary ka o spokesman ka, ay ikaw ang kino-quote ng media. At ang media naman ay hindi na nagbe-verify kung sinasabi mo yung kalokohan o hindi. O katulad ng sinabi ni Marcos sa Australia. Ano sinabi niya? We must uphold, preserve, and defend the unified and universal character of the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea as the Constitution of the Ocean. Napakaganda ang pakinggan, mga kabansa. Limot sa ating mga tenga, lalo na unified and universal character. Pero hindi po pwede po na magkaroon ng konstitusyon, mga kabansa. Yan ang problema. Ang domestic law po, base sa konstitusyon, iisang organic act, iisang basic law na pinanggagalingan ng lahat ng batas na ninilibag sa Kongreso. At ang mga batas na legislated sa Kongreso ay hindi pwedeng mag-contradict sa konstitusyon na yan. Pero mga kabansa, ang UNCLOS, ang United Nations Convention on the Law of the Seas, ay inadapt lamang noong 1982 at naging enforced lamang noong 1994. UNCLOS, intindihin yung mabuti mga kabansa. UNCLOS is a single treaty. Isa lamang pong tratado yan. Hindi po yan ang totalidad ng international law, whether written or customary. Alam po ba ninyo kung ilang treaty meron sa buong mundo since time immemorial? 250,000. Oh, so yung UNCLOS pang 251,001 treaty. Ano ang sabi ng Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences of the United States of America? O yan, Amerikano na ho ang ating source, na nag-conduct ng isang systematic field-wide evidence, nag-synthesis sila ng 224 primary studies and meta-analysis of higher quality studies that found treaties have mostly failed to produce their intended effects. Bakit po mga kabansa? Because international law is not based on a single constitution. Hindi pwedeng pagpalitin ang konsepto ng konstitusyon at ng international law. Bakit po? Dahil ang konstitusyon ay utos, atas ng hari, at in this case in a democracy, ang nagsisilbing hari ay mga taong bayan. Samantalang ang international law is based on international relationships, mga kabansa. So yan, sasabihin pa ni Marcos at uungguyin pa niya yung termino ng mga Amerikano na rule-based order para gawing pundasyon ng Constitution of the Oceans na sinasabi niya. Kaya ako ay dudan-duda na Amerikano nagsulat nito Itong speech ni Marcos sa Australia is made in the US Embassy dyan sa Rojas Boulevard. The notorious order, rule-based order, is derived from a US slogan na nag-cherry pick kung ano lamang ang mga interes na that will suit its own position mula sa mga nakasulat na treaties and edicts, mga tratado, para magkaroon sila ng base at mag-hardcore sa pag-claim of what is legal and not legal. Hindi nyo napansin, mga kabansa, na yan ang pinurso ng arbitration. Naghanap sila ng isang linya. Yung 9-dash line, at sinabi lang nila na yung 9-dash line ay does not have a legal foundation, that the 9-dash line is illegal. Correct. The 9-dash line is illegal, but only insofar as UNCLOS is concerned. But UNCLOS itself says na it is not within their jurisdiction to render final judgment, and they are reserving it dahil wala sa kanilang jurisdiction ang sovereignty over land. Ang pathetic po dito, mga kabansa, ay inuunggoy-unggoy natin ang Amerikano, samantalang ang Estados Unidos ay hindi naman miyembro ng UNCLOS. Yan ho ang karumal-dumal na katotohanan. International law is not static as a constitution is. It is dynamic and primarily exists. Katulad na nga ng sinabi ko kanina, to guide international relations. Para saan? Patungo ba sa gera sa Gaza? Patungo ba sa gera sa Ukraine? Hindi po. Patungo ba sa kaguluhan sa Ayungin Shoal? Hindi po. Patungo ba sa kaguluhan sa Scarborough Shoal? Hindi po. But to a peaceful and beneficial destination. Hindi kaguluhan, hindi tensyon. Gera. So yan, mga kabansa, ang masasabi ko lamang sa inyo ngayong umaga. Huwag tayong pabola-bola dyan sa mga, lalo na kung pangit yung spokesman, magduda na kagad kayo, mga kabansa. At saka yung spokesman ng mukhang hopya ng NSA. Yun, isa pa rin sinungaling nyo. Wala rin alam yun. Yun, abogado pa naman yun. Ewan ko kung bakit bobo yun.
Meron ng Kengkoy, meron pang hopya. Okay, okay na.
So, yan na,
anyway, Kado, bakit nawala yung video mo?
Ay, nawala ba yung video ko?
Ay, nawala yung video mo throughout.
Nako, hindi ko alam, pero naririnig nyo naman ako. Ano po?
So, ang nakikita din natin dito po, itong disruption na ginawa po ng Amerikano sa ating fountainhead ng ating diplomasya. Ang diplomasya po ng isang bansa po, may continuity dapat po yan. Ano? And when you talk about Chinese diplomacy, you're talking about over almost 2,000 years of diplomacy po niyang practice of diplomacy. Kaya po, for example, Russian diplomacy also is very professional. Unlike po American diplomacy na nagbabago after every election, and lalo-lalo nang lumala po after the period of the fall of the Soviet Union, and akala po ng Estados Unidos sila na po ang forever power sa mundo, the unipolar world, at nag-abuso na nag-abuso. Pinaglaruan na din ng sariling international relations nila, disregarding previous agreements, at wala na pong vision kundi power yung Amerika. Well, yan po ay natatransfer sa Pilipinas na wala namang poder, being an extension of America na lang. But we honestly approach this issue, Kaado, by reviewing yung information and documents and reports in history. Kaya po walang takas po sila Tariela doon sa ating nakikitang kasinungalingan po nila, because we have shown the history. And tama naman po si Presidente Duterte in making that commitment and that agreement. Tama rin po sila Harry Roque when they denied it at that point, because they were caught in a bind by what the Americans did doon sa arbitration award. Kaya po, it's so essential for our people to understand na we have to become independent, truly independent, at matanggal po itong mga encumbrances, pitfalls, booby traps na ginagawa ng Amerikano sa mga allies po nila. Tulad ng nakikita natin sa Europa, winasak po ng Amerikano ang Ukraine by the hands of the Ukrainians themselves. Winasak din ng Amerika ang European Union with the hands of Europeans themselves in Germany, in Poland, kasi yung kanilang inaalagaan na mga tuta nila, mga proxies nila, ang nailalagay po nila sa poder. Well, we hope we can avoid this in the Philippines. We saw Bongbong Marcos in 2023 completely under the spell and control of the Americans. But we saw by December 2023 and January 2024 na mukhang may puwang na mapapasukan natin, dahil po si Bongbong Marcos mismo nag-aalangan na po sa kakayahan ng Amerikano. At ang DFA naman po mukhang nakakatulong natin sa pagtutulak ng tamang prinsipyo po. At now we are seeing a struggle between yung mga military na tuta po ng Amerikano and the Department of Foreign Affairs. May struggle po. We can easily be continuing to be anti-BBM. But that's not an issue for us. We are pro-Filipino. We want to push the Philippine agenda of benefit to our people, peace in Asia, cooperation with all countries, especially with the rising power and the historically unprecedented large market and growing market of China for Philippine goods, and the tremendous potential for the Philippines to become China's offloading ng kanyang industries, kasi nga tumataas na din ang wage structure sa China, at kailangan din ng China ng mga ibang bansa na kung saan malilipat po nila ang mga industriya nila that requires lower cost labor. Again, we're faced with a dilemma created by the Americans here sa present situation po natin. But it is not going to be solved by the approach of the Tariela boys, the Tarielas na away sa China, kasinungalingan para sa Amerikano. It is going to be resolved by clear-headed thinking, understanding of history and of international relations, and respect for countries that the Philippines has to deal with. So we move on to I am going back to the backbencher column po ni Rod Kapunan po, kanyang expose po nung failure na ng transparency strategy po ni Raymond Powell at nila Cariela at ng mga Amerikano. At sabi nga ni Kado, lumilipat from Ayungin Shoal to Scarborough itong sila Tariela kasi nga palagay ko yung kasunduan ng DFA with the Chinese Foreign Ministry nakafocus po doon sa Ayungin Shoal. Kaya po pinababayaan na nila ang Ayungin Shoal at nagki-create ng bagong mga senaryo dito sa Scarborough Shoal na hindi rin magtatagumpay pero kumalat na po ang pera, obligado na po ang mga Pinoy proxies to continue operating, obligado na din ang Project Mushu ni Raymond Powell na to continue operating at maghanap ng butas na kanilang malulusutan. But Rod says that the agreement between the Philippines and the Chinese government noong 1999 tungkol sa BRP Sierra Madre at yung mga deliveries ng supplies po doon implied intrinsically acceptance of China's control of the Second Thomas Shoal, an agreement confirmed by then DND Chief General Voltaire Gasmin in a 2013 statement, again based on the facts of history and reports of our media, quoting direct quotes, getting direct quotes from Gasmin himself. So, indisputable po yan. Now, so sinasabi ni Rod Kapunan na failure na yung transparency strategy, and isa niya yung mga failures po nito. And finally, in like what you were saying, Kado, like what President Duterte said many years back, China is in possession. China is actually in control of the South China Sea, and that is in principle accepted by all ASEAN countries. In principle, that is why nobody is challenging. Even the Philippine government was not challenging it up to 2022 at pumasok lang Amerikano noong 2023 with Project Mushu to try to challenge it, but it is failing and will continue to fail. So what is, however, noteworthy about China's exercise of sovereignty is yung tinatawag nila Raymond Powell ng Amerikano na gray zone tactics. Kasi po, this is the first time they have seen such strategy coming from anybody, particularly, of course, from China, which shows the skill of China in diplomacy and international relations. Ano po ito? Yung pag-impose ng kanilang possession and control by non-lethal means. Kaya nga, the Americans had to come up with the term gray zone tactics. In other words, China has been able to exercise its sovereignty and its control through police action that does not harm anybody. And Kaado, of course, added that the Chinese Coast Guard has never boarded any foreign ship nor any Filipino ships. So talagang napaka-peaceful ang approach po nila sa mga humahamon ng sovereign control po nila. This is unique. This is very unique. Walang kanyunan, walang barilan, except decades earlier with Vietnam. Kasi ang Vietnam po ay siyang nagsimula po ng paggamit po ng dahas. So ganyan po ang gray zone tactics na tinatawag ni Raymond Powell, that China will never fire the first shot but will never fail to respond if the first shot is fired. But before any first shot, every non-lethal means tulad ng water cannon, blocking tactics and strategies ay nagagamit po, which are all part and justified and supported by international law in the application of force to control situations. So yun ang unique po na nangyari dyan, Kaado. So ngayon, natatauhan na po ang Department of Foreign Affairs doon sa kanilang negotiation and discussion with China. at openly na sinasabi na po ni Secretary Enrique Manalo, baka magkaroon ng economic sanctions, maghanda po tayo. So yung paghahanda ay yung meeting itong darating na mga araw po sa Marso, sa bisita po ni US Trade Secretary Gina Raimundo para mag-usap. And nakita po natin si Babes Romualdez ngayon. And may sagot siya. Meron daw 1.7 trillion that the United States will invest in the Philippines to counter the effect of any economic coercion that Beijing might impose on Manila. Una-una, Beijing's not coercing anybody. Hindi niya ginagawa na walang dahilan. Isang taon na pong tinutuligsa ng Philippine Coast Guard ang China. Pasensyoso po ang China. Wala pong economic steps. And nagbigay ng warning doon sa meeting ni Wang Yi and ni Secretary Manalo. So you cannot say that is coercion. That is persuasion. Huwag niyong ituloy yan kasi itong pwedeng gawin namin. Ganyan, ganyan, ganyan. But alam ng Amerikano na may impact po yung pressure na yan kay BBM din. Kaya pasok ngayon itong si Babes Romualdez. Kaya din ng Amerikano na mag-invest ng that's only $30 billion. Yung positive offer ng China ay $25 billion na nakita naman natin ng resulta. Marami pong mga projects na tulay, mga trend, pero kinakancel yung ibang mga projects, yung irrigation projects, dam projects, and so on. So, ang trade po ng Pilipinas at China is up to $80 billion. Ngayon, ang inquirer sinasabi po, I don't know if I presented it, but I presented it in our previous discussion na sinasabi po ng inquirer, ang China po, mas malaki po ang ina-export sa Pilipinas kaysa ang export ng Pilipinas sa China, kaya po ang China po ang malulugi. That is a fallacy. Yan. Anyway, mabuti nilagay ni na si Manalo po ay naghahanda po. Kasi po kung hindi niya matalo po ang Philippine Coast Guard sila Tariela, magiging sakuna po ang ating ekonomiya kung mapigilan po ang exports ng Pilipinas sa China. Now, sinasabi ng inquirer, hindi, mas malaking mawawala sa China. Hindi po totoo yan. Kasi po yung mga in-import po natin sa China po ay mga pakinabang po sa Pilipinas na hindi po natin pwedeng i-boycott unless we want to punish our own people, our own consumers, our own especially poor and working class na ang mga cellphones po nila ngayon ay mga galing sa China dahil mas mura at mahusay na quality. Ito po ang aking nadiga po na inlang importanteng impormasyon para sa bayan po tungkol sa Philippine-China trade. Ito po. Data from China Customs show bilateral trade in 2020 kasi yung mga latest po hindi pa po pumapasok yung total information. It was $87.7 billion. That is import and export ng Pilipinas at China to each other. Total. The Philippines imported 21.7 billion worth of items from China in the first 9 months of 2023. So hindi pa po nabubuo po yung data dyan. But only shipped 8.18 billion worth of goods the other way. Okay, so may trade deficit talaga ang China, ang Pilipinas. No? So yun na sinasabi ng inquirer, mas malaking mawawala kung tumigil po tayo ng trade with China dahil doble ang ine-export ng China sa Pilipinas. But that is only true if if we don't need the products of China and we can go to other people. We cannot go to other countries for the same quality and cheap goods or budget-friendly goods. Like ito pa, popular products being imported from China to the Philippines. Electronics and electrical equipment. Alam naman natin yan. Ang video camera ko galing sa China. Ang aking ang typewriter, keyboard galing sa China. Ang aking screens galing sa China. Na hindi po ako makakabili po galing sa Europa o America or even Japanese brands or South Korean brands which are at least 30% higher in cost. At least. So machinery, hand tractors, saan ka bibili? Makita ng China, ng Japan, mas mahal yun kaysa yung mga ibang mga kubota ng Japan. Kaysa kumpara doon sa galing sa China, boilers, nuclear reactors, iron and steel. Ano? Different products made of iron and steel, plastics, minerals, mineral fuels, oil and distillation products, furniture, prefabricated buildings. Halos lahat ng mga warehouse po, prefabricated na galing po sa China. So hindi po tayo ganyan kalaya na bitawan po ang mga produktong ini-import natin sa China. So that Inquirer headline po is a fallacy. Ano?
Mentong,
Yes, Kado, go ahead.
meron akong pinadala kay Joshua sa ating chat.
Sige.
Ang kinatatakot ko dito, pag hindi tumigil itong bunganga ni Tariela at itong mga bobo, ignoramos, na gumagawa ng mga sarili nilang mga interpretasyon ng international law tungkol sa Scarborough Shoal, in denial of the fact that we surrendered control of the area. China did not get Scarborough Shoal, full control of Scarborough Shoal. Dahil dati naman, nagpapatrol dyan ng China, nagpapatrol dyan ng Pilipinas. Wala namang imikan eh. Until that incident in 2012, when a Philippine military boat accosted 8 Chinese fishing vessels and boarded civilian fishing vessels espousing the Chinese flag. Yan po ay classic case of an open declaration of war sa international law. When a gray ship, military ship, boards a civilian vessel espousing the flag of another country. Nagkaroon ng standoff. Hindi na ako pupunta sa detalya. Umurong ang Pilipinas, iniwanan ng China in full control of the area. Wala hong puwersa. So, we cannot say, even with this, an iota of an imagination, that China is not in control of the area. And who is in control of the area, full control of the area? Exercises sovereignty, mga kabansa. Sila may-ari under international law, under customary law, under the doctrine and principle of effective control. And even the arbitral tribunal, mga kabansa, by the way, no? Even the arbitral tribunal. Ito ang sinasabi ng arbitral tribunal. The tribunal notes Article 809 that the traditional fishing rights are not absolute or impervious to regulation. Indeed, sabi ng arbitral tribunal, the careful regulation of traditional fishing may be necessary for conservation and to restrict the environmentally harmful practices. Ayan mga kabansa. So who does the regulation? Dahil ang traditional fishing rights na pinagmamalaki nitong si Kengkoy ay hindi naman absolute. So sino nag-i-enforce ng regulasyon? E di kung sino ho yung may effective control of the area. At sino ho yung may effective control of the area? China. So ano na naman kabulastugan yung pinagsasabi niya? Ngayon ang kinatatakot ko, Mentong, dito sa pinapakita natin na mapa ng Scarborough Shoal, baka ang gawin na lang ng China dyan para matigil na lahat ng debate i-occupy na yung territory, yung Scarborough Shoal at ilagay na yung plano nilang tourism spot dyan, kompleto. With hotel, mga kabansa. Kompleto mga kabansa. May hotel, may harbor, merong tropical travel and holiday area, may airport, may government offices, and I am assume magkakaroon ng Coast Guard outpost dyan, residential zone. If China continues with this, wala na. Wala na tayo, hindi na tayo pwede mag-stand dyan. Because the same arbitral tribunal provides 12 nautical miles around this rock. So hindi na tayo makakalapit ho dito sa Scarborough Shoal. Ngayon pinapayagan tayo because of yung agreement ni Duterte with Xi Jinping na itinatanggi nito si Kengkoy. Ay sige, usugin nyo. China is in possession of the area. Tingnan natin kung saan, hanggang saan makakarating. Ang tibay ng katarantaduhan, kabulastugan, at kasinungalingan ng mga taong nasa gobyerno ngayon. Can you imagine mga kabansa? Deliberately, they're lying to your face. Sinasabi nila, hindi black and white yan nakikita nyo. Red, blue, and green, and yellow yan. Dahil meron kami sarili naming interpretasyon.
Engkado, ang importante din pong masabi po ay yung itong mga kasinungalingan at kabalastugan nila Tariela ay todo suporta po ang Philippine Daily Inquirer and Philippine Star at saka yung mga TV stations po nila Manny Pangilinan, TV5, ANC, and all those talk shows nila 24 oras and so on. Kaya po yun ang kanilang inaasahan na magbe-brainwash po sa publiko dito sa kasinungalingan ni Tariela. But we have all these facts. And tulad po nitong nakapost po, I think this is important to post sa Facebook and everywhere else sa Twitter, no? To show the contrast between the report ng Philippine News Agency in 2018, napakarinaw po, and then itong sinasabi ng Inquirer, China lying about permit. But I have run out of time also to keep posting. We have so many images and slides that are so telling and so powerful. So maybe in the next meet and greet, I hope with this March, later this March, we can have a meet and greet. We can have some volunteers to help post and make comments on these images that we have prepared. No? But Kado, it's now 9:46, time for our Raffle. I don't know if many have joined. There are so many other comments I also would like to read. And there are some international magandang kulay po ng ating wheel of wisdom po, ano? So let's spin the wheel for the first time for the major prize today. And let's see if it's a new name or a multiple winner. Grace Kempis, I think she has won before, but it's okay. Of course, we're happy she wins again. And she can choose another book if she has already won the book of General Victor Corpus. So Grace Kempis is from what part of the country, Ka Josa? San Pedro, Laguna. Parang naalala ko nga may napanalo na si Madam Grace Kempis. Okay, congratulations. We're very happy for you and happy reading po. Okay, consolation prize. Let's spin the wheel. Sino naman ang ating consolation winner? Let's see. Oops. Ayun, bago ata. Teresita V. Alvaro. Teresita V. Alvaro from what part of the Philippines? Cabuyao, Laguna, no? That's Cabuyao, Laguna. Okay, congratulations. Well, yung mga hindi pa po natatanggap ang kanilang mga panalo po, please keep reminding us. Sometimes it just takes time kasi we have to follow up our delivery po also. Okay, yes. Wala pa po tayong title na naiisip, no? But we'll see. Yung mga short stories po na ni Robbie Kwan Laurel and yung aklat po ni Maring, yung Arnis ni what's his name? Rio Zablan, a Filipino working in China. Yun na lang, no, Kadyoso? Okay, okay na yun. Okay, let's go back to our agenda. So, we cited this report of Babes Romualdez about the 1.7 trillion na ating pinaliwanag na sa ating previous episode na kaduda-duda po ang Amerika na makakadeliver po nitong mga to na iulat na po natin yung kanilang mounting national debt of 34 trillion na po, growing by 1 trillion every 3 months. Ano, we have reported in previous episodes. I don't know if Ka Joshua can retrieve the images that we posted. Yung Biden's 2021 pa na G7 meeting po na promise ng Build Back Better World. Wala po nangyari. Pantapat daw, sabi ni Biden at ng Amerikano, sa Belt and Road Initiative ng China po na nag-invest na po ng China in the past 10 years ng $1 trillion, si Biden sumagot noong 2022 pala March. Biden's Build Back Better plan is dead. According to Forbes advisor, an American publication, dead na po yan. Actually, yan ay Build Back Better World. Build Back Better World. Para sa mundo din daw yan. Para sa Amerika nga, namatay na po. Na nangako ng mga bagong train, fast train, and so on and so forth. Wala po nangyari. Hindi na kaya ng Amerika. Okay, so let's move on to the next. Ka Joshua, Kaado.
Yun din na nangyayari dito sa Build Back Better More ni BBM.
Yung nga po, hanggang laway lang. Laway
slogan.
Lang. Oh.
Alam nyo mga kabasa, there's only one way. Wala kasi tayong batas na nagtatalaga na itong Scarborough Shoal ay atin. Ang kaisa-isa lang na tumataguyod dito ay yung renewing ni Noynoy Aquino na Administration Order 29. Sus Mariosep, how can an action of the executive branch designating the West Philippine Sea become law? Hindi po batas yan, mga kabansa. Yan ho ay slogan lamang. That is the only thing that is standing. Napakahina ng ating posisyon sa Scarborough Shoal. Miski na ano pang mapa pakita sa inyo ni Carpio, wala hong punto sa mga mapa sa international law. So anyway, the only way to get it back, if you want it, if it was ours in the first place, which I doubt. But China is in possession, so we will have to go into war with China. Now, the question is, humahanap tayo ng kakampi, Amerikano, Hapon, ngayon, Australiano, papunta tayo sa India. Papayag ba yung mga countries na yan to endanger the improving relations with China para sumuporta lang sa isang gera over a small rock dito sa South China Sea? Mag-isip-isip kayo mga kabansa. Lalo na kayo dyan sa mga Sambales, may mga area dyan sa Ilocos na nakaharap sa Scarborough Shoal. Ang aking pong puntos dito ay simple lamang. Pumayag na ang China noong 2016 sa pakikiusap ni Presidente Duterte. Pero yung salita lamang, nagkaroon ng up to now. The Filipino fishermen are going there. Pero wag namang pumasok na sa shoal, wag nang pumasok doon sa lagoon inside the shoal, dahil nire-regulate nga ng China yon, dahil yun ang itlugan ng mga isda.
Okay, anyway, Kaado, we have only 7 minutes left. We have to move on to the latest info po that we get that I think we have also mentioned this. Si Harry Roque po is defending Quiboloy and it's part of our agenda but we are running out of time. But at the same time po, we have scoop po that si Risa Hontiveros ay nag-hire na po ng marketing firm to promote her image, and she's running for presidency in 2028. And of
Wow.
course, sino ba ang pwedeng mag-motivate po niya kundi ang Amerikano? Kaya pala po talagang ginagamit po itong Quiboloy issue para mag-publicity po itong si Risa Hontiveros.
President Barakel.
Yun. Anyway, we'll talk about that in our next episode. But right now, let me just go on to what itong drama na ginagawa po ni Babes Romualdez, the top American tuta and proxy operator po. Sabi ng Business Mirror, nag-ulat po dito na hindi daw makatulog si Babes Romualdez because of what? Yung West Philippine Sea row daw. What's keeping Manila's top envoy to the US up all night? All of these skirmishes that is happening there can be one major accident and either one of our countries, the US or the Philippines, can invoke the MDT, Mutual Defense Treaty. And when we do, a commitment made by the US or the commitment we make will happen, and then all hell breaks loose. Parang giyera na naman, World War II na naman ang senaryong pinoproject. So, kita po natin, yun ang kanilang hinahanda. But of course, alam naman ni Babes Romualdez that the Americans are the ones who create false flag incidents when they need to start the war already. Anyway, we're watching for that. We will be blocking their attempts to do that. So now let's go to the international situation. Video shows U.S. veterans burning uniforms at vigil for Aaron Bushnell in Portland, Oregon in the U.S. So kumakalat na po yung U.S. protest against U.S. policies in the Middle East, in West Asia. I'll move on. Israel po massacred. Yes, Kado, go ahead.
In fact, Mentong, ngayong March 2. March 2 pala ngayon sa US. Hindi pa tapos ang March 2. Itong March 2 is a march in about 30 areas, 30 different cities and locations within the US and about 5 outside of the US to honor Aaron Bushnell's supreme sacrifice for the Palestinian people and calling for a day of action to end the war in Gaza and to an immediate ceasefire. So ngayon po, bukas lalabas na, magsalabasan na sa news as of kanina, and tomorrow I am sure that the internet will be full of coverage sa marches all over the United States na po, mga kabansa. Kaya yung repeat ng Vietnam, diniscuss ko sa aking programa kahapon sa Ang Maestro sa Katipunan Channel. My goodness, Mentong, sinensor ako ng YouTube. Pero nasa Facebook din po, nasa Rumble. Thank you.
Okay, and our final item po is massacre, dozens killed by Israeli fire in Gaza while collecting food aid. Actually, ang huling bilang po, 120 po na pumipila po para kumuha po ng pagkain dahil gutom na ang 1 milyong mga Gazan citizens po doon sa Raffle and other areas. So this also reflects on the real core of the Western civilization. This is white supremacism, white Israelis against the brown Palestinians. Anyway, bumabati po tayo kay bagong pangalan kasi ang nakikita ko po, Zeb Ilas, and several others. Lani de la Rama, 1988, hindi makatulog si Babes Romualdez. Good quality daw kasi ang drugs sa USA, Class A at high grade items. Talaga naman. Okay. Well, anyway, it's now 9:57. Kaado, I'll give you the last 3 minutes before we say goodbye. Kaado, what's your message this week, being the founder of the Unfinished Revolution broadcast?
Well, masasabi ko lang at this point, mga kabansa, bilang pamamaalam sa araw na ito. Ipagdasal natin ang mga areas that are troubled in the world. Pagdasal natin ang mga Ukrainians, mga Russians. Pagdasal natin ang mga taga-Gaza na victims of genocide. At sana naman wag tayong dala sa kaguluhan na dulot lamang ng mga Amerikano sa mundo. Yang gera ho ay hindi parte ng humanity. Hindi ho tayo tao para mamatay lamang na walang kasaysayan. Pagdasal po natin ang mga, lalo-lalo na mga Palestino sa Gaza, na sana'y magkaroon na ng resolusyon ng kanilang pagdurusa. Maraming salamat po.
Okay, and meron pong nag-feed sa atin, latest po, magsasanib daw si Manny Pangilinan, Ramon Ang at Sabin Boitis to partner for a landmark power deal that would expand the country's liquefied natural gas capacity and so on. So ito po, simpleng interpretation po from the socialist perspective po, nagko-consolidate po ang mga oligarchs nitong mga Amerikano, at lalong palalakihin po nila ang kinakabig po nila mula sa public consumer demand. Yung tubo po nila na itataas po na naman nila by consolidating their own interest. Ito po ang talagang kalaban po ng taong bayan sa Pilipinas, itong consolidation po nitong oligarchy. And ang ating PMA graduates or alumni and PNP alumni should think about this. Hindi po ganyan kasimple na dynasties lang po ang kalaban. Itong economic mafia na kasabwat po ng US financial mafia po. Ito po ang kombinasyon na dapat natin tuligsain para maibalik po ang yaman po ng bayan sa taong bayan. Well, anyway, booking na, tatakbo pala si Risa Hontiveros pagka-presidente ng Pilipinas. Kaya simula na po siya sa kanyang propaganda at binibiktima niya po si Quiboloy po bilang first agenda niya sa kanyang propaganda build-up. Well, I think we now should tell people about this para mabisto po itong bagong proxy po ng Amerikano. Well, we have to say goodbye. Please take care of yourselves in the weeks to come. We'll end this program but we'll see you on Wednesday. And siguro matutuloy na po natin ang media forum po natin next Friday or Saturday. Mabuhay and have a good week ahead of you.